The Sunday afternoon chill cut through the air at Belmore Mall, a sprawling shopping center in suburban Philadelphia, where families bundled in coats hurried between stores like Target and Best Buy. I was Malik Vance, 16, tall for my age with the lanky build of a kid who spent weekends shooting hoops at the local rec center. Dressed in my gray hoodie and black sweatpants, I strolled through the main entrance, the scent of pretzels from Auntie Anne's wafting out. In my hoodie pocket was my latest find, Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, snagged for cheap at the used bookstore across the street. I'd been obsessed with his stories lately growing up black, in a world that didn't always see you right. It felt like reading my own life sometimes. The wind whipped up as I reached the disabled parking area near the curb, pulling my hood tighter against the bite. I leaned against the railing, checking my phone. Mom's text glowed on the screen. "On my way, kiddo. Traffic's a mess. Be there in 15. Elena Vance, my mom, was always running late from work stuff she couldn't talk about. I didn't mind. It gave me time to crack open the book. I sat down on the low barrier, legs stretched out, flipping to where I'd left off. The mall buzzed around. Me kids laughing, cars pulling in and out, but I tuned it out. This was my routine. Grab a book, wait for mom, head home for dinner. A white SUV pulled up nearby, screeching a bit on the pavement. A middle-aged white woman stepped out, glancing my way and muttering something under her breath as she passed, maybe about the weather, maybe not. I ignored it, too absorbed in Trevor's words about identity and survival. But seconds later, a sharp voice sliced through the air from behind. "Stand up, right now." I turned. A white cop built like a linebacker, hand resting on his holster, stared me down, eyes hard under the brim of his cap. "What's going on, officer?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, hands visible on my knees like mom had drilled into me since I was 12. "I said stand up. This isn't a hangout spot. Who gave you permission to sit here?" I rose slowly, book still in hand. "I'm just waiting for my mom. She's on her way. I'm not causing any trouble." The officer's face tightened, stepping closer, radio crackling at his shoulder. Without waiting for my response, Officer Bradley lunged forward, grabbing my arm with a grip like iron. He yanked me upright, spinning me around and slamming my chest against the hood of his patrol car. The metal was cold against my hoodie, and the impact knocked the wind out of me for a second. My book tumbled out of my pocket, pages fluttering open on the pavement. "I got a report of a suspicious individual matching your description," he barked, his breath hot on the back of my neck. "Don't try to resist." I gasped, trying to steady myself. "I didn't do anything wrong. I don't have any weapons. My mom can explain she's on her way." "Shut up," he snapped, twisting my arms behind my back. The cuffs clicked on, biting into my wrists. He did it right there in the parking lot, where everyone could see. Shoppers paused, with their bags, staring. An older white lady shook her head disapprovingly. A kid in a minivan pressed his face to the window, wide-eyed. Phones came out, people filming, whispering, but no one stepped in. "Don't play the victim card here," Bradley hissed, loud enough for the growing crowd. "You think just because you're black you get a pass on checks?" The words hit harder than the shove. My face burned, not from the cold, but from the shame flooding through me. I wasn't a criminal. I was an honor student at Central High, captain of the JV basketball team, the kid who volunteered at the community center. But in that moment, to him, to them, I was just suspicious. My hoodie, my skin, my waiting spot. That's all it took. "I'm not a criminal," I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper, as he pushed me toward the back of the cruiser. "I'm just waiting for my mom." He laughed a short, mocking bark and shoved me into the seat. "Yeah, well, we'll sort that at the station. Sit tight, kid." The door slammed shut, locking me in. Through the window, I saw the crowd dispersing, some shaking their heads, others hurrying away like they didn't want to get involved. My cheeks flushed redder. I could feel the eyes on me, judging. What would my friends say if they saw this? What would Mom think? I bowed my head, staring at my cuffed hands. The humiliation settled in my gut like lead. All because I was sitting there. All because I was me. I sat in the back of the cruiser, wrists aching from the cuffs digging in too tight. The door had slammed shut like a final judgment, and now Bradley was dragging me back out, one hand clamped on my arm as he pulled me across the parking lot toward the mall's security office. My head hung low, hood slipping back, exposing my face to the cold wind and the stairs. I could feel eyes on me, shoppers pausing with their bags, whispering. My sneakers scraped the asphalt, each step heavier than the last. I didn't say a word, didn't fight, didn't yell. Mom's voice echoed in my head. Stay calm, Malik. Words can be weapons, but silence is armor. So I wore it. My palms were sweaty, the metal cuffs slick against my skin. I stared down at my shoes, the scuffed Nikes I'd worn to school all week, watching them move one in front of the other, like they belonged to someone else. This wasn't me. I wasn't the kid who got cuffed in broad daylight for nothing. Bradley muttered under his breath, grip tightening. Keep moving. Don't make this harder. I didn't respond, just kept my eyes low, letting the humiliation burn quiet in my chest. From the corner of my vision, I saw the white woman from earlier nodding approvingly from afar, like she'd done her civic duty. A few others filmed on their phones, but no one stepped up. Why would they? To them, I was just another black kid in a hoodie, suspicious by default. Then in the distance, tires screeched. A black SUV barreled into the lot, pulling up sharp near the cruiser. I didn't look up at first, didn't dare hope, but I knew that engine hum. Mom. Bradley stopped, hands still on me. He didn't know who she was. No one did yet. Not the officer, not the crowd. I lifted my head just enough to meet his eyes for a split-second, mind steady. His narrowed in confusion. In that look, I didn't accuse or beg. I just let him see me. A kid waiting for his mom. Nothing more. If my skin wasn't black, would anyone have pointed a gun at me just for sitting there? The SUV door opened. Bradley slammed the cruiser door shut behind me, the lock clicking like a trap snapping. I slumped in the back seat, wrists throbbing from the cuffs, staring at the mesh partition separating me from the front. The radio crackled with static, but Bradley ignored it, turning instead to a mall security guard who jogged over a middle-aged white guy in a blue uniform, radio clipped to his belt. What's the deal, officer? The guard asked, peering through the window at me like I was some exhibit. Loitering, suspicious behavior, Bradley replied, voice laced with that fake authority. Got a call about someone hanging around the entrance, making people nervous? The guard nodded, crossing his arms. What did he do? Bradley's laugh was short and bitter. Doesn't have to do much. Just look like trouble, you know? Hood up, sitting there like he owns the place. I caught the guard's eye through the glass. He glanced away quick, but not before I saw the agreement in his nod. Yeah, we've had complaints about kids like that before. Good catch. Outside, the crowd had grown a loose circle of shoppers pausing with their bags. The white woman from earlier, the one who'd muttered as she passed, stood at the edge, phone in hand. She leaned toward a couple nearby, voice carrying just enough for me to hear through the cracked window. I called it in, she said proudly. He was just sitting there, hood up, looking shady. You never know with these types, better safe than sorry, right? The couple murmured agreement, one snapping a photo. My stomach twisted. I wasn't these types. I was just a kid with a book waiting for Mom. But her words fueled the whispers, heads nodding like it all made sense now. A young barista from the coffee stand across the lot started toward us, concern on his face, but his manager, a stern woman in an apron, grabbed his arm. Stay out of it, Mike. Cops handling it, not our business. The barista hesitated, then backed off, shaking his head. I watched it all unfold through the window, the humiliation burning deeper. No one questioned Bradley. No one asked for my side. They just added fuel, turning my quiet wait into something sinister. Bradley's radio buzzed again. He smirked at the guard. See? Routine stop. Nothing to it. Bradley yanked the cruiser door open, his face twisted in that mix of boredom and suspicion. Out, he ordered, grabbing my arm again and pulling me to my feet. The cuffs bit deeper into my wrists as I stumbled slightly, the cold air hitting me like a slap. He spun me around, patting down my pockets roughly. What's in here, huh? Drugs? Knife? He demanded, fishing out my phone and the book. Just a book and my phone, I said, keeping my voice even, eyes on the ground. No point in escalating, I knew that much. He flipped open Born a Crime, scoffing at the cover. Yeah, right. Let's see what else you've got. He unlocked my phone. How? I don't know. Maybe he guessed the simple passcode from peeking earlier and scrolled through my texts, my photos. Suppose I dig deeper, he muttered. Gang messages, threat pics. Kids like you always have something. I lifted my gaze to meet his, steady as I could manage. I'm an honor student, I said quietly. I haven't done anything wrong. My mom's a federal agent. She's on her way here right now. Bradley paused, then burst out laughing, turning to the mall guard still hovering nearby. Hear that, federal agent mom? These kids always think they're somebody special pulling out the big guns to scare us off. The guard chuckled nervously, shifting his feet. Yeah, heard that one before. Probably thinks it'll get him a free pass. Bradley's radio buzzed again, but he ignored it, tossing my book onto the cruiser's hood. Well, honor student, your mom's not here yet, so you're coming with me. I swallowed hard, the words bubbling up despite everything. I said it soft, almost under my breath, but clear enough for him to hear. I'm giving you a chance not to make this worse. He froze for a split second, eyes narrowing. What did you say? But the radio crackled louder this time, dispatch calling, and he turned away, waving off my words like they were nothing. The guard smirked, and the whispers from the crowd grew, their stares like weights on my shoulders. My reminder hung in the air, drowned out by the static and the sidelong glances. No one listened. Not yet. A sleek black SUV glided into the parking lot. Silent as a shadow, no sirens, no flashing lights, just the smooth hum of its engine cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. I caught it from the corner of my eye, still pinned against the cruiser with Bradley's hand on my shoulder. The vehicle pulled up sharp, brakes hissing softly on the asphalt. A woman stepped out tall, poised, in a crisp black suit and dark sunglasses that hid her eyes. She moved with purpose, heels clicking against the pavement, scanning the scene like she'd done it 100 times before. An older man pushing a shopping cart nearby paused, squinting. Hey, she looks familiar. He muttered to no one in particular, voice trailing off as he wheeled away. She strode straight toward us, gaze flicking to me, cuffed, hoodie askew, then locking onto Bradley. My heart skipped. Mom. What's your name? Her voice was low, edged like a blade, not raised but commanding enough to make the air thicken. Bradley straightened, hand dropping from my arm. I don't have to answer that. This is an active scene. You just drew your weapon on my son, she said, stepping closer. No reason, no evidence. You have 3 seconds to hand over the cuff keys. He barked a laugh, glancing at the guard for backup. Oh, you're the mom. Well, you're welcome to join us at the station so we can... She lifted her badge, a black card, with gold trim, the U.S. Secret Service emblem, etched boldly, unmistakable, the kind that shut down rooms. No one spoke. The crowd's whispers died. Bradley's face drained of color, his smirk vanishing like smoke. My name is Elena Vance, she continued, voice steady as steel. I oversee special investigations into police misconduct under direct White House mandate. She paused, letting it sink in. And you? Just filed your resignation without knowing it. The guard backed up a step, phones lowered. I stood there, wrists still bound, staring at her. Mom wasn't just mom anymore. She was the force I'd heard about in whispers, the one who fixed broken systems. Bradley stammered something incoherent, but the strange detail hung there. That badge, turning the whole scene upside down in seconds. Officer Bradley froze mid-laugh, his eyes widening as Mom's badge caught the fading afternoon light. The gold trim gleamed like a warning, the Secret Service emblem unmistakable even to someone like him. For a split second, I saw doubt flicker across his face, his grip on my arm loosening just a fraction. But then his jaw set, and he puffed up his chest, doubling down. "I don't care who you say you are," he snapped, voice louder now, like he was performing for the crowd. "What I did was by the book. The kid was acting suspicious, hood up, loitering in a high traffic area. We've got protocols for that." Mom didn't budge, her sunglasses still on, expression unreadable. "Protocols? You mean drawing your weapon on a teenager waiting for his mother? No threat, no complaint on record?" Bradley waved a hand dismissively, signaling to his partner in the cruiser. "Hey, start rolling the dash cam. I want this on tape, some Fed trying to throw her weight around." His partner nodded, fumbling with the equipment. Bradley turned back to Mom, smirking. "Go ahead, file your complaint. But if you want to make a scene, we'll do it at the station. Kid's coming with me until we sort this out." I shifted in the cuffs, heart pounding. From the backseat view, I watched Mom pull out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. "Start recording." She texted someone, I couldn't see who. "Patch to DC Oversight Chief." Less than 30 seconds later, a light flickered on from her SUV's dashboard cam. Then the passenger door opened, and a man in a gray suit stepped out, earpiece in, tablet in hand. He looked official federal. No doubt about it. "Miss Vance," he said calmly, already filming on his device. "Link directly to the federal office. You want this live streamed to the board?" "Not yet," Mom replied, eyes never leaving Bradley. "But make sure it's archived." Bradley hesitated, glancing at the new guy, then back at her. His bravado cracked a little more. "This is bullshit. I'm just doing my job." I sat there, wrists numb, watching it unfold. I'd never seen Mom like this, calm, calculated, turning his aggression back on him. It hit me then, what she'd always said. "You don't always need to yell for justice, Malik, but when you speak, make the whole system listen." The crowd started swelling around us, phones out, murmurs rippling like waves in the chilly parking lot. At first, it was just curious glances, shoppers pausing with their bags from stores like J.C. Penney, whispering about the trouble. But as Mom stood there, badge gleaming, something shifted. A black woman in her 30s, pushing a stroller nearby, pulled out her phone and started recording, her voice low but clear. "That's Elena Vance. I saw her on the news last year, the one who took down those cops in Baltimore for excessive force." An older Hispanic man nodded, leaning toward his wife. "Yeah, she's not just any agent. Wrote that report that got 28 officers fired. Federal level stuff." Bradley glanced around, his bravado cracking. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cold. He shifted his weight, eyes darting to the gray-suited man now standing behind Mom, tablet in hand, earpiece blinking. The Fed looked official Washington badge on his lapel. I was just following procedure," Bradley stammered, voice dropping an octave, no longer the bark it had been when he cuffed me. Mom tilted her head slightly. "Does your procedure include profiling a black teenager as a threat just for wearing a hoodie and sitting alone?" No one answered. The crowd's whispers grew phones, capturing every word. The white woman who'd called it in backed up a step, her self-satisfied smirk fading as someone muttered, "She just got that kid arrested for nothing. Now look who's in trouble." From the cruiser's backseat, I pressed my face to the glass, cuffs still pinching. "Mom, it's okay. Let it go," I whispered, voice muffled. But she didn't glance my way. Her eyes stayed locked on Bradley, on the bigger picture, not just me, but every kid like me who could end up in this spot. The ones without a federal agent mom to step in. The gray-suited man tapped his tablet. "Oversight's looping in real time, Miss Vance. We've got priors on this officer, similar stops, all minority teens. Bradley's partner hovered by the car, radio in hand, but didn't intervene. The doubt was spreading now, thick as the gathering dusk. People weren't just watching anymore. They were questioning. And in that shift, I felt a tiny spark. Maybe this wasn't just my humiliation. Maybe it was the start of something breaking open. Mom stepped closer to Bradley, the crowd holding its collective breath. Phones hovered midair. Even the wind seemed to quiet. Her suit jacket didn't wrinkle as she moved, every step deliberate, like she'd rehearsed this in boardrooms and courtrooms 1,000 times. She stopped inches from him, voice low and measured, each word dropping like a stone in still water. Officer Bradley, you've picked the wrong person, the wrong moment, and the wrong system. The lot went dead silent. Bradley's face paled, his hand twitching toward his radio, but he froze. No bluster now, just wide eyes darting for an escape. I'm not suing you, she continued, pulling a slim folder from her inner pocket. I'm investigating you. And not just you, the entire chain of falsified reports. The habit of stopping people of color, the quiet handshakes covering it all up. She withdrew a single sheet, crisp and official, holding it out like evidence in a trial. This is an emergency internal affairs warrant, signed by me and cleared this morning. And you? You're case number 1. No one moved. Bradley's partner stared at the ground. The mall guard backed away. Whispers erupted. Holy shit, she's for real, someone muttered. The woman who'd called it in slipped her phone into her purse, face ashen. Bradley stammered, This is procedure. I had a call. But Mom didn't interrupt. She let his words die in the air, the warrant speaking for itself. The gray-suited Fed beside her nodded once, already noting something on his tablet. Uncuff him, she said to Bradley's partner, who fumbled with the keys, hands shaking. The metal released with a click, and I rubbed my wrists, the red marks stinging in the cold. The Fed placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, guiding me away from the cruiser toward Mom's SUV. Bradley didn't budge, face drained, staring at the paper like it was his obituary. His partner whispered, Man, you just erased yourself from the force. The crowd shifted, phones lowering, people exchanging glances. Doubt had turned to certainty. The power flip was real. Mom glanced at me, her eyes softening for a split second, then back to business. In that one sentence, she'd rewritten the scene, not with shouts, but with the quiet force of truth. Only 2 hours after the chaos in the parking lot, I found myself in a stuffy conference room inside Belmore Mall's security office, a bland space with fluorescent lights buzzing overhead and posters about community safety peeling on the walls. Mom had whisked me away in her SUV, a federal escort trailing us. My wrists still bore red marks from the cuffs, but the real ache was deeper, in my chest. We didn't talk much on the drive. She just squeezed my hand once and said, This ends today. The room filled quickly, city police reps in starched uniforms, the internal affairs chief looking sweaty and uncomfortable, a couple of federal lawyers in sharp suits, and even a DOJ official who'd flown in from D.C. on short notice. Bradley sat in the corner, face ashen, avoiding my eyes. His partner hovered nearby, fidgeting with a notepad. Then Mom walked in, no entourage, no drama, just her black suit, a slim briefcase, and that steel gaze that could cut through bullshit. She didn't need introductions. The room straightened up like she'd flipped a switch. I'm not here to make noise, she said, voice calm, but carrying like a courtroom echo. I'm here to remind you that the law still exists, even if you've forgotten it for too long. She set her briefcase on the table with a soft thud, opened it, and connected a tablet to the projector. The screen flickered to life, footage from a hidden cam on my hoodie. Mom's doing, I realized later, one of her just-in-case gadgets she'd sewn in after too many close calls. It showed everything. Me sitting quietly reading, the white woman glancing and calling, Bradley approaching, gun drawn, the shove, the cuffs. Next slide, GPS data from my phone, time-stamped proving I'd been stationary for 20 minutes. No wandering, no threat. Then, Mom's phone logs and location pings, confirming she was en route exactly as I'd said. The room went dead quiet. No one argued. The IA chief shifted in his seat. The DOJ rep nodded slowly, jotting notes. Bradley stared at the floor, hands clenched. One of the lawyers finally spoke up. Miss Vance, this evidence is compelling. She didn't smile. It's not compelling, it's the truth. And it's just the start. In that moment, watching her command the room without raising her voice, I saw the power she wielded not just for me, but for the system she'd sworn to fix. The internal affairs chief cleared his throat, leaning forward in his chair, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on his lined face. Miss Vance, do you have the authority to initiate a full system probe, me on local grounds like this? Mom placed the authorization order on the table with a deliberate thud, the federal seal stamped boldly at the top. I am the senior coordinator for the Department of Homeland Security's Law Enforcement Conduct Oversight Program, and this incident crossed every red line this morning. She turned to the federal attorney beside her, giving a slight nod. Effective immediately, the entire patrol unit for the Belmore area is suspended pending a full review of stop procedures, searches, and reporting protocols. Any officer with a history of racial bias will undergo mandatory retraining or be removed from frontline duty. The room tensed. No one interrupted. A young city lawyer tried to interject, voice tentative. This situation, it might just be a misunderstanding. Maybe we can. Mom raised a hand, cutting him off without raising her voice. A child cuffed for waiting on his mother? You call that a misunderstanding? She paused, eyes sweeping the table. If my son weren't black, there might not even be a meeting like this. I sat in the corner, rubbing my wrists, watching it all. Mom's identity wasn't just revealed. It reshaped the room. The IA chief nodded slowly, flipping through the order. We'll comply fully, Miss Vance. Bradley shifted in his seat, face pale, but Mom didn't glance his way. This wasn't about him anymore. It was the system she'd built her career to challenge. The DOJ rep jotted notes, murmuring to a colleague about expanding the probe statewide. From my spot, I saw the power in her stance, not anger, but unyielding truth. She'd turned my humiliation into a reckoning, her role as overseer now front and center. No one questioned her anymore. The meeting pivoted, discussions on timelines, data pulls, interviews starting tomorrow. As they talked, Mom caught my eye for a split second, a small nod, reassuring. I nodded back. Her identity wasn't a secret weapon. It was the shield she'd forged for kids like me. Officer Bradley, the one who'd cuffed me like I was nothing, was the last to be called in. He shuffled through the door, uniform rumpled, eyes darting like a trapped animal. Gone was the swagger, the barked orders. He looked smaller now, deflated as he took the seat at the end of the table, avoiding everyone's gaze, especially mine. Mom didn't even glance his way. She turned to the IA chief instead. Have you pulled his complaint history yet? The chief nodded, sliding a folder across. Yes, 6 filings in the last 18 months, all involving black male minors. Mom flipped it open, scanning the pages with that clinical precision I'd seen her use on case files at home. Forward this to the federal office for criminal review. I'm not firing him. The justice system will handle that. Bradley jerked up, face flushing red. Wait, you can't just... But the secretary next to Mom, a stern woman in a pantsuit, stepped forward, blocking his path as he tried to approach. Sorry, she doesn't owe you an audience. But her son, he had to listen to you yelling, face smashed against the cruiser hood, cuffed in front of a crowd. Maybe you should try silence, like the boy did. The room went still, Bradley's mouth opened, then closed. He sank back into his chair, hands trembling on the table. I watched from my spot, heart pounding not with anger, but with this strange mix of relief and pity. He'd been so sure, so quick to judge. Now his career was crumbling right there, page by page. The DOJ rep leaned in. "We'll need his badge and service weapon by end of day." Bradley didn't fight. He just stared at the folder, the weight of those 6 complaints, 6 other kids like me crushing him. His partner, still in the room, looked away, like he knew the fallout was coming for the whole unit. Mom closed the file with a soft snap. "This isn't personal, it's accountability." Bradley muttered something under his breath, maybe an apology, maybe denial, but it didn't matter. He was done. Suspended on the spot, escorted out by his own colleagues. As the door clicked shut behind him, I felt the shift, one man's fall, but the start of something bigger. For me, for all of us. A week after the incident, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window on the 3rd floor of a government building in downtown D.C., the kind with marble floors and security badges at every door. The chill from that Sunday at Belmore felt like a distant echo, but the marks on my wrists had faded to faint bruises, reminders I could hide under long sleeves. I was dressed sharp, white shirt, gray vest, slacks pressed crisp. In my hand a folded speech, words I'd scribbled late at night about what it meant to be seen as a threat just for existing. Below, reporters milled about, cameras ready, notepads out. The banner behind the podium read, "National Symposium on Rights of Minority Youth in Public Spaces." Mom stood a few steps back, silent, her presence a quiet anchor. She didn't hover or coach. She trusted me to speak my truth. I stepped to the mic, heart pounding but voice steady. I wasn't arrested for doing anything wrong. I was arrested for being me, but I'm not here to relive the pain. I'm here because I don't want anyone else to swallow their tears like I did. Applause rippled up, polite, supportive. I nodded once, no smile, and stepped off. The weight lifted a bit as I walked away from the stage, but the real test came outside. I changed in the restroom, swapping the vest for my old gray hoodie, the same one from that day. It felt like armor now, not a target. As I exited the building, a young security guard eyed me, then did a double take. "You sure about wearing that again, kid? After what happened?" I met his gaze, calm. "If I have to fear my own clothes, then this society's the one that's scary." He nodded slowly, stepping aside. I walked out into the crisp air, past the steps where suits and ties rushed by. No stairs this time, no cuffs. Just me, heading back to the spot that had tried to break me, Belmore. Not to confront, but to reclaim. The hoodie hugged my shoulders like an old friend whispering, "You're still here." A small article popped up in the Washington Tribune a few days after my speech, buried in the opinion section, but shared enough on social media that it reached me. I was scrolling on my phone late one night, Mom asleep in the next room, when the headline caught my eye. "Why I filmed that day at Belmore." The piece was anonymous, but the words hit like they were written for me. I was the one who recorded the video that day. I'm not an activist. I'm just a passerby, a middle-aged dad grabbing coffee on his way home. But when I saw a teenage boy get cuffed for sitting there, something snapped. If I didn't stop, I thought, then I'm part of it, complicit in the silence that lets this happen over and over. Now, I keep that video on my phone. Not to post or go viral. It's not about likes. It's a reminder. Some things shouldn't repeat, not even once. That kid could have been mine. And if we all look away, who's left to change it? No name at the bottom. Just those words, raw and real. I read it twice, sitting on my bed in the dark. It wasn't about me anymore, not really. It was about that moment rippling out, touching strangers. I knew justice didn't need credit. It needed people like him to hold on to it, to let it live in quiet ways. The next morning, I showed Mom over breakfast. She nodded, stirring her coffee. "See, one voice starts a chain." I folded the paper, tucking it away. Public didn't need to know who wrote it. But I did deep down. It meant we weren't alone. Enough people were ready to keep the fight alive, even if from the shadows. 2 months later, Belmore Mall felt different under the autumn sun, warmer, less hostile. The program I'd proposed had taken root. A new aluminum sign near the entrance read, "This area monitored by the Federal Youth Civil Rights Protection Initiative." Pilot program proposed by Malik Vance. It wasn't flashy, just sturdy metal bolted to the wall where I'd been sitting that day. I walked past it during a quiet afternoon. No rush, no fear. The crowd bustled as always, families with strollers, teens laughing over iced coffees, but no one glanced twice at me in my hoodie. I stopped, reached out, and touched the sign. Cool under my fingers, solid. A promise etched in steel. From the corner of my eye, a group of black kids, maybe 14, 15, wandered up, dropping their backpacks and sitting right there on the barrier. Laughing, sharing earbuds, scrolling phones. No hoods pulled low out of caution. No scanning for cops. Just kids being kids, in a space that once would have marked them as threats. Sunlight slanted through the glass dome overhead, casting golden rays across the pavement, warming the chill that had lingered in my memory. One of the kids looked up, caught my eye, and nodded casually like we shared some unspoken club. I nodded back, a small smile tugging at my lips. I didn't need apologies. Not from Bradley rotting in some desk job after his suspension turned permanent. Not from the woman who'd called it in, or the bystanders who'd looked away. What I needed, what we all needed was this. Walking through the old spot without bowing my head. As I turned to leave, the sun dipped lower, painting them all in soft amber. "I don't need to be sorry," I whispered to myself, echoing Mom's words from that night. "Just need to walk through the old spot, without bowing my head." The words hung in the air, a quiet echo, as I stepped into the light.